In a horrifying incident that has shocked New York City, Sebastian Zapeta is accused of setting a woman on fire in a subway station. This shocking crime has sparked widespread outrage, raising questions about public safety, mental health, and the justice system. This video explores the details of the incident, the aftermath, and its broader implications for the city. On a typical evening in the bustling city of New York, where the subway system serves as the lifeline for millions, an unimaginable act of violence unfolded. It was a scene of chaos and horror that left commuters in shock and disbelief. Sebastian Zapeta, a man whose motives remain unclear, allegedly carried out a heinous attack that would forever scar the lives of those who witnessed it. The incident took place at the bustling Union Square subway station, a central hub where trains converge and crowds surge at all hours of the day. The station, known for its busy platforms and eclectic mix of passengers, became the setting for a crime that no one could have anticipated. As commuters waited for their trains, the usual hum of subway activity was pierced by screams that echoed through the underground corridors. Eyewitnesses recounted the surreal and terrifying moments leading up to the attack. A woman standing on the platform and seemingly lost in thought became the unsuspecting target of Zapeta's violent rage. According to those present, Zapeta approached her with a disturbing calmness, carrying a plastic container that many initially assumed was harmless. What unfolded next was a scene straight out of a nightmare. Without warning, Zapeta doused the woman with a flammable liquid, sparking confusion and panic among bystanders. Some initially thought it was a prank or an accident, but their shock turned to horror when he ignited the liquid with a lighter, setting the woman ablaze. Flames engulfed her almost instantly, creating a terrifying spectacle as she screamed and flailed in agony. The intense heat and the acrid smell of burning filled the air, causing commuters to scatter in all directions, some rushing to help while others sought safety from the unfolding chaos. One witness described the scene as utter pandemonium. People ran to alert transit workers and call for emergency services, while others scrambled to find anything to extinguish the flames. A few brave individuals used their jackets and water bottles to try to smother the fire, risking their own safety in the process. Their quick thinking and courage likely saved the woman's life, as they managed to extinguish the flames before they could cause even greater harm. Emergency responders arrived on the scene within minutes, but to those present, the wait felt like an eternity. Paramedics tended to the severely injured victim, who suffered extensive burns across her body. Her anguished cries and visible injuries left many bystanders visibly shaken, some unable to hold back tears. Police officers quickly moved to secure the area and apprehend Zapeta, who reportedly made no attempt to flee the scene. He was detained without resistance, his expression reportedly devoid of remorse. As the subway platform was cordoned off and the victim rushed to the hospital, the shockwaves of the incident spread through the city. News of the attack traveled quickly, with social media amplifying the horror and outrage. Videos taken by bystanders showing the aftermath of the attack went viral within hours, sparking a flood of reactions ranging from anger to profound sadness. This horrifying act left a deep impression on everyone present, many of whom struggled to process what they had witnessed. For commuters who had used the subway daily without a second thought, the incident shattered their sense of security. The Union Square station, a place of routine and familiarity, had become a site of trauma. In the hours following the attack, questions swirled about Zapeta's actions and what might have driven him to commit such a brutal act. Speculation ranged from personal vendettas to mental health issues, but no immediate answers were forthcoming. Authorities promised a thorough investigation to uncover the truth, while New Yorkers grappled with the fear and uncertainty that the incident had sown. This nightmarish event not only left a woman fighting for her life, but also highlighted the fragility of safety in public spaces. For those who witnessed it, the memory of the flames and the victim's cries would remain etched in their minds, a chilling reminder of the violence that can erupt without warning in the most ordinary of places. Sebastian Zapeta, the man at the center of this horrifying incident, quickly became the subject of intense scrutiny as the details of his life began to emerge. Who was this individual capable of such a shocking act, and what might have led him down this dark path. Investigators and the public alike searched for answers, piecing together fragments of his background to make sense of the inexplicable. Zapeta, a man in his early 30s, was described by those who knew him as quiet and unassuming, though he had a history that hinted at deeper struggles. Originally from Guatemala, he had come to the United States several years earlier, seeking new opportunities. Like many immigrants, his journey was marked by challenges and adversity. He held various low-paying jobs, often in construction or manual labor, and struggled to establish a stable life in the fast-paced, unforgiving environment of New York City. Neighbors from his apartment building described him as reclusive, someone who kept to himself and rarely interacted with others. He would occasionally exchange pleasantries but seemed to avoid forming close relationships. Some noticed that he had bouts of erratic behavior, including moments of anger or agitation, though they had no reason to suspect he might be capable of violence. A few neighbors mentioned hearing loud arguments or strange noises from his apartment late at night, but most dismissed these incidents as the stress and pressure of city living. Zapeta's social media profiles, now under intense scrutiny, painted a picture of a man grappling with isolation and frustration. His posts were sparse, but they often alluded to feelings of being misunderstood or unfairly treated. Cryptic messages about trust and betrayal appeared among benign updates about his daily life. While none of these posts directly pointed to violent tendencies, they hinted at an inner turmoil that might have gone unnoticed by those around him. Law enforcement officials began digging deeper into Zapeta's past, uncovering a criminal record that, while not extensive, raised concerns. He had been arrested on several occasions for minor offenses, including disorderly conduct and trespassing. In one notable incident, he was charged with assault after a heated altercation with a coworker at a construction site. Though the charges were eventually dropped, the incident left a lingering question about his temper and ability to manage conflict. Mental health quickly became a focal point of the investigation. According to preliminary reports, Zapeta had a history of mental health issues, though the specifics remained unclear. Some speculated that he might have been struggling with untreated conditions such as schizophrenia or severe depression, which could have contributed to his erratic behavior and eventual descent into violence. However, without access to his medical records, these claims were difficult to substantiate. Interviews with individuals from his past revealed a man who oscillated between moments of kindness and alarming instability. A former coworker described him as hardworking but prone to outbursts. "You could see that he was carrying a lot of anger," the coworker explained. "Sometimes it felt like he was on the edge, but I never thought he would actually hurt someone." Others echoed similar sentiments, describing him as a man who seemed burdened by invisible demons. In the days following his arrest, Zapeta's lack of remorse shocked investigators and the public. Reports from police officers who detained him described his demeanor as cold and detached, offering no explanation for his actions. Some speculated that his calmness might have been a sign of premeditation, while others argued it could indicate a psychological break from reality. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Zapeta's story was one of deep complexity, shaped by a confluence of personal struggles, systemic failures, and societal neglect. He had slipped through the cracks of a system that often overlooks the most vulnerable, his mental health needs unmet and his growing frustration unchecked. The attack on the subway was not just an isolated act of violence, but a tragic culmination of years of instability and marginalization. The public reaction to Zapeta's identity was a mixture of anger, confusion, and calls for systemic change. Many demanded answers, questioning how someone with a history of erratic behavior was able to carry out such a heinous act. Others focused on the broader issues of mental health care and support for marginalized individuals, arguing that more could have been done to prevent this tragedy. Ultimately, Sebastian Zapeta's story serves as a grim reminder of the complexities that can underlie acts of violence. While his actions were inexcusable, they also shone a light on the social and systemic failures that may have contributed to his breaking point. For those seeking to understand this horrific event, his life offered no easy answers, only a sobering glimpse into the struggles of a man whose pain manifested in unspeakable harm. The victim of the subway attack, whose life was forever altered by Sebastian Zapeta's horrific actions, has become a symbol of resilience and the enduring human spirit in the face of unimaginable trauma. While her identity was initially withheld to protect her privacy, details about her life and her struggle to recover gradually emerged, painting a picture of a woman who was simply going about her daily routine before being caught in a nightmare. A 33-year-old mother and dedicated professional, the victim had been on her way home after a long day at work when the attack occurred. Friends and family described her as a kind-hearted and hard-working individual who was deeply committed to her loved ones and her career. She was the type of person who would go out of her way to help others, often volunteering her time to support community initiatives and advocate for causes close to her heart. The attack left her with severe burns covering much of her body, injuries that required immediate and extensive medical intervention. Paramedics rushed her to a nearby hospital, where she was admitted to the intensive care unit in critical condition. The burns not only caused excruciating pain but also posed a significant risk of infection and other complications. Doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize her, performing multiple surgeries to address the damage and minimize scarring. The recovery process was described as grueling, both physically and emotionally. Burn injuries are among the most painful and difficult to treat, requiring ongoing care that includes skin grafts, physical therapy, and pain management. For the victim, the road to healing would be long and uncertain, with each step forward marked by small victories and significant challenges. Her family, devastated by the attack, rallied around her, offering their unwavering support and doing everything they could to ease her burden. As news of her condition spread, an outpouring of support from the public followed. A GoFundMe campaign was launched to help cover her medical expenses, quickly gaining traction as people from around the world donated to aid her recovery. Messages of encouragement flooded social media, with strangers expressing their sympathy and admiration for her strength. Community members organized vigils and fundraisers, demonstrating their solidarity and determination to support her in any way possible. Her family, in statements released to the media, expressed their gratitude for the overwhelming kindness and generosity they received. "We are deeply touched by the love and support that has been shown to us during this difficult time," her sister said in a public statement. "It gives us strength to know that so many people are standing with us as we fight to help her heal." The psychological toll of the attack was immense. Surviving such a traumatic event left the victim with not only physical scars, but also emotional ones. Experts explain that burn survivors often face post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, anxiety, and depression as they come to terms with their experiences. The victim's family prioritized her mental health, arranging for counseling and support groups to help her navigate the emotional challenges ahead. Friends described her as a fighter, someone who had always shown resilience in the face of adversity. Despite the severity of her injuries, she was determined to regain her independence and rebuild her life. In moments of clarity, she expressed gratitude for the strangers who had rushed to her aid on the subway platform, calling them her guardian angels. Their bravery and quick action had undoubtedly saved her life, giving her a chance to recover and find a new sense of purpose. The attack also highlighted broader societal issues, sparking conversations about safety in public spaces and the need for better support for victims of violent crimes. Advocates called for stronger measures to ensure the safety of commuters, as well as increased funding for medical and psychological care for trauma survivors. For the victim and her family, these discussions offered a glimmer of hope that her suffering might lead to meaningful change. As her recovery continued, the victim's story inspired countless others, serving as a poignant reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. Though her journey was far from over, her determination to heal and move forward became a source of inspiration for those who followed her story. Her life, irrevocably changed by a senseless act of violence, stood as a testament to the strength it takes to confront unimaginable pain and begin the long process of rebuilding. The legal proceedings surrounding the subway attack drew intense public scrutiny as the justice system moved to address the heinous crime committed by Sebastian Zapeta. The case quickly became a high-profile trial, not only because of the shocking nature of the attack, but also due to the broader societal questions it raised about safety, mental health, and accountability. Within hours of his arrest at the scene of the crime, Zapeta was formally charged with multiple offenses. The charges included attempted murder, first-degree assault, and arson, all of which carried severe penalties. Prosecutors wasted no time in presenting their case, emphasizing the premeditated nature of the attack. Surveillance footage from the subway platform, eyewitness testimonies, and the physical evidence left at the scene formed the foundation of their argument. These elements painted a chilling picture of an individual who planned and executed a deliberate act of violence. During his arraignment, Zapeta appeared emotionless, showing no visible reaction as the charges were read. His court-appointed defense attorney entered a plea of not guilty on his behalf, a move that further inflamed a public outrage. Many believed that the overwhelming evidence against him left little room for doubt about his guilt, and they demanded swift justice for the victim. However, the defense's approach signaled a more complex legal battle to come, one that would delve into the underlying factors that may have influenced his actions. The defense quickly raised questions about Zapeta's mental health, suggesting that he may have been suffering from severe psychological disorders at the time of the attack. They filed motions for a psychiatric evaluation, arguing that his mental state should be taken into account when determining culpability. This strategy opened the door to the possibility of an insanity defense, which would focus on whether Zapeta was capable of understanding the consequences of his actions. The prosecution, however, pushed back against this narrative, asserting that the attack was calculated and deliberate. They highlighted the fact that Zapeta had brought a container of flammable liquid and a lighter to the subway station, suggesting clear intent and planning. Prosecutors argued that while mental health issues might have played a role, they did not absolve him of responsibility for such a violent and premeditated act. As the case progressed, the courtroom became a battleground for these opposing perspectives. Expert witnesses were called to testify about Zapeta's mental state, with psychologists and psychiatrists offering conflicting opinions. Some described him as a man struggling with severe mental illness, possibly exacerbated by years of social isolation and untreated trauma. Others argued that his actions were not the result of a psychotic episode, but rather a conscious decision driven by anger or resentment. The victim's family, seated in the courtroom during each hearing, became a poignant presence throughout the trial. Their grief and anger were palpable, serving as a constant reminder of the real human cost of Zapeta's actions. In emotional statements, they described the impact of the attack on their loved one's life, urging the court to hold him fully accountable. "This was not just an attack on my sister," her brother said during a press conference. "It was an attack on all of us, on our family, on our sense of safety, and on our trust in the world." Outside the courtroom, the public debate over the case grew increasingly heated. Advocates for criminal justice reform emphasized the need to address the root causes of such violence, pointing to the systemic failures that allowed Zapeta to go unnoticed despite signs of instability. Others focused on the immediate need for justice, calling for the harshest possible sentence to deter future crimes and provide closure for the victim and her family. The trial also reignited discussions about subway safety and the responsibility of public institutions to protect commuters. Many questioned whether more could have been done to prevent the attack, such as improved surveillance, increased security presence, or better support for individuals showing signs of distress in public spaces. These debates underscored the broader implications of the case, which extended far beyond the actions of one individual. As the trial neared its conclusion, the tension in the courtroom reached a peak. The jury was tasked with determining whether Zapeta's actions warranted a conviction on all charges, or if mitigating factors, such as his mental health, should influence the verdict. The final arguments from both sides were impassioned, with the prosecution emphasizing the deliberate and cruel nature of the crime and the defense pleading for compassion and understanding of Zapeta's struggles. The verdict, when it came, was met with a mixture of relief and somber reflection. Zapeta was found guilty on multiple charges, including attempted murder, ensuring that he would face significant consequences for his actions. However, the trial left lingering questions about the broader societal issues that had surfaced during the proceedings. For the victim and her family, the conviction brought a measure of justice, but also underscored the long and painful journey ahead as they continued to heal from the trauma of that fateful day. The attack on the subway, while horrific and deeply personal for those directly involved, also illuminated a much broader set of societal issues that demanded attention. As the shock of the incident began to settle, New Yorkers and people across the country started asking hard questions about what could have been done to prevent such a tragedy. This single event, while unique in its brutality, became a symbol of the systemic failures in public safety, mental health care, and social accountability. One of the most pressing concerns raised was the issue of subway safety. The New York City subway system, a lifeline for millions of commuters, has long been a space where public safety and security are difficult to maintain. While crimes on the subway had reportedly decreased in recent years, incidents of violence and harassment remained a significant issue for riders. The attack reignited fears among commuters, many of whom questioned whether the subway system was equipped to protect them. Advocates and officials began calling for changes to enhance security in the subway system. Some proposed increasing the presence of police and transit officers on platforms and trains, while others suggested the use of advanced surveillance technologies, such as real-time monitoring and facial recognition. However, these measures sparked a debate about privacy, civil liberties, and whether increased policing would address the root causes of violence or merely treat the symptoms. The attack also highlighted glaring gaps in mental health care, particularly for individuals who show signs of instability or distress in public. Experts pointed to the lack of accessible mental health services in New York City, noting that people like Sebastian Zapeta often fall through the cracks of an overburdened and underfunded system. Many advocates argued that had Zapeta received the mental health support he needed, the attack might have been prevented. This sparked renewed calls for funding and expanding programs to identify and assist individuals at risk before they reach a breaking point. City officials responded to the public outcry with promises of action. Mayor Eric Adams and other leaders announced plans to invest in mental health initiatives, increase outreach to unhoused individuals in the subway system, and implement new safety measures to protect riders. While these announcements were welcomed by some, others expressed skepticism, questioning whether the changes would be meaningful or simply temporary responses to public pressure. Community organizations also stepped up in the wake of the attack, offering support to both the victim and the broader community. Groups organized workshops and forums to discuss public safety, educate commuters on how to respond to emergencies, and advocate for systemic changes. These grassroots efforts demonstrated the power of collective action, with everyday New Yorkers coming together to find solutions and demand accountability. Beyond the immediate policy responses, the incident sparked a broader cultural conversation about violence and societal responsibility. The attack forced many to confront uncomfortable truths about the intersections of poverty, mental illness, and public safety. It became clear that addressing these issues required more than punitive measures. It called for empathy, investment, and a willingness to tackle the root causes of instability and violence. For many, the subway attack also became a reminder of the resilience of New Yorkers. In the days following the incident, stories of bravery and solidarity emerged, showcasing the best of humanity in the face of unimaginable cruelty. Strangers who risked their lives to save the victim, commuters who came together to support one another, and advocates who refused to let the tragedy be forgotten, all became symbols of hope and strength. While the road to recovery for the victim, her family, and the city as a whole was long and fraught with challenges, the attack served as a catalyst for change. It underscored the importance of creating a society that prioritizes safety, compassion, and accountability. The tragedy was a stark reminder of the work that still needed to be done, but it also offered an opportunity to rebuild, learn, and strive for a better future. In the end, the attack was not just a story about one man's violent actions or one woman's incredible resilience. It was a story about a city grappling with its flaws, its fears, and its aspirations. It was a call to action for leaders and citizens alike to come together, address systemic failures, and ensure that such a horrific event would never happen again. It was a testament to the enduring spirit of a city that, even in its darkest moments, found the strength to move forward.